Welcome everybody who's joining. We're just going to spend a few minutes waiting for everybody to join us in this awesome free training today. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome everybody who's coming in. I can see you all filtering in. Welcome, welcome. Awesome. So we're going to give it a few minutes. I'm just watching the names pop up. Yeah, go ahead and say hi in the chat, everybody. Introduce yourself. Let me know why you're here, what you're looking forward to, what you're working on, where you're from. If you want to share that, that'd be nice. I'm Ashley Mansour. I'm your host for this live webinar. I'm so excited to be here today to train you. Hi, Julia. Hey, Rachel. Karen, Lori, Matt, Sandra, Colleen, David, Charles. Lots of people here. Travis. Travis is looking forward to overcoming writer's block. Awesome. I hope I can help you with that today. Hey, Felicia. Looks like Erin from Tallahassee, Florida. So cool. Awesome. So we're just going to give it a few minutes while you all introduce yourselves. Deb. Hey, Deb from Omaha. Working on 2 books. Fantastic. Lori, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. This is really exciting. So some people are dialing in, some people are just joining through Zoom. So we're going to give it a few minutes. And then when they're here, when everyone is here, we have our full room, we will get started. So I'm going to give it like maybe 3 more minutes. So welcome, Matt. I see you're a freelance ghostwriter. Awesome. Cool. So if everyone wants to just maybe, this will be interactive. So if you have questions that you want to ask, feel free to add them into the Q&A section. I will take questions throughout. I'll try to address them and pause in certain places. So it's going to be a little over an hour, our training. I've got a lot of stuff to teach you today. And I really want to give you good value for your time. So I want to teach you as much as I can in this 60 minutes we have together, a little over 60 minutes. Good morning. Awesome. So also I want to thank the Help Network for having me here today as a guest to teach you. I want to thank Julia and Chip and Julian for organizing everything. Really appreciate it. It's so exciting to be here with you guys. Aaron and Tom, awesome. Okay, so there's about 26 people in the room. Just give it another minute and then we're going to dive in. And anyone else who wants to join us, they certainly can, but I'm going to start teaching you. I don't want you to wait too long. So how many people, if you want to just pop it in the chat while we're waiting, how many people are actively working on a project right now, a book project right now? Okay, so David is an animated screenwriter. Cool. Lori is working on a book. Deb is working on a book. Steve is here. Steve, are you working on a book or do you have a writing project you're working on? Travis has a couple of book ideas. Sandra is writing a new historical novel. Amazing. Wow. John is here. Welcome, John. Awesome. Great. Lots of people are working on projects. So I'm really hoping that today's training will be inspiring for you just to see what's possible, hopefully help get you unblocked a little bit and thinking differently about writing. That's my goal. And so we're going to dive right in here. We're at 29 participants. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so Nella's working on a script, no book. This will be useful for you as well, Nella, because a lot of these principles are universal. Colleen has ideas. Tom is a voice actor looking to find his footing. He loves reading books and performing the script. Wonderful. Okay, so I think it's time for us to get started. Rachel has a set of essays that she would possibly like to turn into a book. Very cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the teaching, to the training for today. I don't want you to wait too long. I'm going to close up the chat, so I'm not going to be looking at it too much, but I will dip back in during a natural break and see if anyone has any questions. So if you feel like you have a question, you can either put it in the chat, or I will also check the Q&A. Q&A is a better place to ask your question so that I can be sure and grab it for you. Okay, and we'll also have some time for questions at the end of this training. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna get started. So welcome everybody to this awesome training on becoming an expert storyteller. I'm going to cover why the world needs your book now and how to get it done in just 90 days. I'm Ashley Mansour. I'm your host. I'm your guide on this awesome 60-minute journey. So hang tight with me. It's going to be lots of fun. I have amazing value prepared for you today. Okay, so let's kind of set the scene. 2020, hey 2020. Yeah, you kind of suck so far. I know we all feel it. It's been a really interesting year. A lot of difficulty and uncertainty in the world. We are facing unprecedented changes in many different areas. I know we're all aware of them, don't need to cover them here. But I think we're all feeling like, can we just get a do-over? Can we just kind of restart this year? But the truth is we cannot go back. We only can go forward. And so as creative people, as storytellers, we need to figure out how we are going to fit in to the new world, right? So I take comfort in something that I heard before, which is in times of uncertainty, we are called upon to be our best selves. I really do believe this, that how we respond to the current events in the world, it really determines our place, our contribution, and our future. So it's time to think about how we're going to show up as creative people, as storytellers, as writers, as people looking to make an impact in the new world. So I love this quote. It's from a book that I've been reading called The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. And that book is from 1968. If you don't know it, definitely get it and read the book. But intelligence created you to live in these times because you are equipped to meet the challenges of these times. And he then goes on to say that you are the right person in the right place to create a right world for yourself. Amazing words considering what we're going through right now. All the resources of the infinite are already yours. They need you as a means of self-expression. So I really enjoy this quote right now because of where we are in the world. It's very poignant that actually we don't want to go back. We want to go forward and we want to use what's happening in the world to help improve the world, make it a better place. And I really believe that that's within our power as creative people. So if you don't have The Power of Decision, definitely you're going to want to grab that book. I'm reading it right now. So the world needs your voice, not your silence, now more than ever. This is where we are. We need people to speak up. We need creators, new storytellers, new leaders to get their messages out there today. Not in 5 years, not in a decade, today. It's so important to move the conversation forward, to move the world forward and progress, that we allow ourselves the ability to tell the stories that we have. So that's part of my mission, is to help people tell their stories, get them out into the world so that we can make the world a better place. I really believe that now is the perfect time to share your story with the world. The question is, what story will you share? So think about that and keep it in mind as we go through this training. All right, so in this training, I have some goals set out for us. I want us to discover why now more than ever is the perfect time to tell your story and write your book. I want to go over what the number one mistake is that causes 99% of aspiring authors to fail. We spend a lot of time on this because it's something I see happen all the time as a book strategist and a writing coach. So I really want to teach you this so that you can take it forward into your work. And I'm going to show you the one simple strategy that everyone needs in order to finish a great book and get it out into the world. So that's what's up for this training today. Not going to spend a ton of time introducing myself, but here I am. I'm Ashley Mansour, the founder and CEO of LA Writing Coach. I help people write their books and become expert storytellers so that they can share their message and improve their lives. I've seen storytelling improve my life. I will show you how that happened. And my goal is to help other people do the same thing. I'm the creator of something called the TAP method, which I'm going to teach you in this training. It's a leading technology that has helped many people become authors and bestsellers. I created the Author Your Book in 90 Days digital training program, and I've been a professional writer for over 12 years and spent over 8 years in entertainment and digital media as a writer and award-winning producer. So I've worked with dozens and dozens of writers over the course of my career, and I am a writer myself, so I really do understand the specific challenges that writers encounter when they're, working on their projects. So I'm a best-selling author. I have I have 2 Amazon bestsellers, 2 #1 Amazon bestsellers. One is the Writer Success Code. And you might also know me from my international best-selling book, Blood, Ink, and Fire, which is a YA young adult dystopian novel featuring a future world without books. So I want to talk about how storytelling has helped me in my life. Storytelling has helped me do a number of things that I previously probably didn't think were possible. So storytelling has helped me get a high-paying job. It also helped me get promoted in that job, right? So using my skills as a storyteller, it helped me get noticed, helped me get promoted. Then it helped me land a publishing deal and a film and television deal. It also helped me start my own business, understanding how to tell stories, how to talk to people, how to create a narrative is really important. It's also helped me reach people all over the world with my books, something I never thought was possible. Readers in France and Germany and Spain and Italy and the United Kingdom and Asia. It's amazing to see that happen. So it's helped me reach people over the world and make an impact in bigger ways than I probably ever imagined. And it's also helped me network and grow a large following. So I want to put to you this idea that storytelling is actually a really vital skill that you need now more than ever, right? Storytelling has helped me in many ways, and I believe it can do the same thing for you when you understand the nuts and bolts of how to actually get your story out there. If you have a story inside of you, this is your greatest opportunity to tell it. The world is hurting. People are hurting. People need hope, and they need inspiration. I think the #1 way to do that is to tell your authentic story in your voice and share something that can positively impact people's lives for the better. So the first thing you need to do is figure out how to actually get your story done. One fundamental belief I have is that everyone has a story to share with the world. I truly believe this. I've seen it myself, and there's not a person I talk to that I don't think, wow, they have a powerful story. If only they could get it written and get it out there, it would really help people. So I truly believe this is a fact. The problem is, I see this over and over again, most people don't know how to tell their story or where to begin. They're overwhelmed by the blank page. They become paralyzed by self-doubt and fear. And most people make one simple mistake that leads them to hit a wall and ultimately give up on their book. So we're going to look at what this is and how it holds people back. Because this is why of the 81% of Americans who dream of writing and publishing a book, only 1% ever actually accomplish this dream. That's a really low percentage. right? If we reverse it, that's 99% of people who are not accomplishing their dream of getting their book out there. So we need to understand why this is happening. The truth is, this was my story. So a very long time ago, I wanted to write a novel. I've always been interested in storytelling and writing books. And even as a child, I was writing and performing stories long, long ago. So I wanted to write this book. I set out to write it. And I actually spent 3 years working on this novel, using all my training from college, from my master's program, using all the training that I had, focusing on my skills and building my craft. When I finished writing this book, I sent it out to people that I knew, my friends, people in the publishing business, editors looked at it, an agent looked at it, and here's what happened. They all told me that this book could not be published, that it was not readable, no one would ever buy this book. And I basically, got rejected over and over again. So I felt like I put 3 years right down the drain. And I still remember the feeling of taking this huge manuscript of like over 500 pages and feeding it chunk by chunk into the shredder, watching all my hard work just kind of turn into trash. That was a really, really tough experience. But, I moved on. I decided that I would keep going. And so I got a job. I got a job writing other people's stories. Very ironically, I had, very successful 3 years at this job. This is where I was promoted to the head of the publishing department, and I was running the whole team. And it was a very rewarding experience working here. But, after a while, I realized that my own dream of writing my books and telling my stories lived on. And ultimately, I wanted to find a way to make my dream a reality. So I made a decision. I decided that if I wrote again, I would need a plan. If I was going to embark on this journey of telling my story, I really needed a concrete plan. We had plans in the publishing department, and I needed one for myself, something that I could commit to. So I made a pact with myself that the book I would write would need to accomplish a few things. It would need to take me less than 12 months. I was not about to spend 3 years again to see it, just end up in the shredder. That wasn't going to happen. I wanted it to become a bestseller. That started to percolate in the back of my mind a little bit. And I wanted to reach people all over the world. So I decided that this is how the book would be, right? I wanted to reach a lot of readers. I didn't quite know what the size of that audience looked like or how I would do it, but I knew that I wanted to reach many readers. And I also knew that I wanted this book to be lucrative and help me jumpstart a whole new career, right? So I was kind of tired of the 9-to-5, kind of tired of working overtime at this job, and I really wanted to transition into something else that was mine. So I sought advice from the experts. I realized that I had a key advantage, which was in the 3 years I was working with this company, I had met and worked with multiple successful authors who had been successful in, children's adaptations and screenwriting and, been bestsellers, multiple successful authors and storytellers. And so the benefit that I had was I got to see how they operated, what they did, how they were successful over and over again for a long period of time. What they were doing that actually worked. I had the benefit of these people becoming my mentors, my teachers, and this is where I really started to see a pattern. I actually discovered that they were all doing 3 very simple things. And when I learned this, it was so obvious. It was like, why didn't I see it many years before? So I got to work and I decided that I was going to utilize these 3 simple things that I had learned and create my book. So I really did, put aside time every weekend, every evening, and I started writing again. So it was a challenging time, but also a very exciting time because I felt the momentum of this book really taking off. I felt it going well. And here's what happened with this book that I created. I finished it in just 9 months, which for me, after coming out of that 3-year experience, that was like a whole new record. It really opened my eyes to what was possible. I landed a publishing and film and TV deal with this book. It became an international and a #1 Amazon bestseller. My story reached people all over the world, right, in multiple countries. I hear from people, in places that I've never been to, which is amazing and exciting. It was extremely lucrative and helped me jumpstart a whole new career that, I was so excited for. And everything that I previously thought was impossible in that 3-year journey turned out to actually be possible. It really opened my eyes to what you can do when you understand how to approach the book in the correct way, which is what I want to teach you on this training. What did I do differently? And what did these experts teach me that I can pass on to you? So I've never really looked back since. I've worked on multiple film and TV projects and book-to-film adaptations. I love book-to-film adaptations. I started my own company, LA Writing Coach. I've made award-winning content. I've been free of the 9-to-5. In the last 6 years, I've had a successful life as an entrepreneur, a writer, producer, and now coaching other people to do the same thing, which I really get so much joy out of, seeing other people finish their books for the first time and experience the amazing pride that comes with finishing your first book. And I've continued to write and publish books using the simple 3-part methodology that I discovered from those experts long, long ago. And I've had the benefit of teaching others how to do it too. So I'd like you to meet Brandon. Brandon is the founder and CEO of Frank and Maven Marketing. Brandon actually struggled for over 2 years. When I met him, he'd been struggling for 2 years, trying to write and finish his first book. He used this methodology, the methodology I'm going to teach you, to finish his first ever business book of over 70,000 words in just a few months. So really amazing stuff. He achieved massive breakthroughs and became an expert storyteller who is now ready for a publishing path. He's working with editors now to get his book to market. I'd also like you to meet THNEA. THNEA is awesome. She's the founder of Arrive at Happy, which is a happiness company based in Los Angeles, California. THNEA used the methodology to author her very first book for her business, and she finished her entire book in less than 7 weeks, which is a record as far as I'm concerned. And she's just amazing. This is to really show you what is possible when you understand the methodology. I'd also like you to introduce you to Gay. Gay is using the methodology to author her very first book. And she's achieved more in the last 30 days than ever before, made more progress. She's on track to finish her 60,000 word book in just 8 weeks, which is incredible. And this is what Gay said. She said, "I never would have gotten this far with my book and so quickly if it wasn't for Ashley and her methodology." That made me feel so good when she said it. And I was super excited to be able to include that for you in this training so that you can see what is possible. So let's talk about how is all this possible, right? How are these authors getting the success that they're getting? And how did I accomplish the things that I was able to accomplish? I want to introduce you to the 3 secrets. The 3 secrets is a fancy way for me to let you know what I've discovered, what I learned in my process from those experts. And it's a way for me to show you what I ultimately believe to be true about writing books. These are things we don't hear often. They're things that are not widely spoken about, which is why I call them the 3 secrets. So I'd like to introduce you to secret number 1. Secret number 1 is that you can write a full-length quality book in just 90 days or less, like THNEA, without sacrificing your social life, spending 24/7 at the computer, or taking time away from what you love most. I'm going to show you how this is possible. Secret number 2 is that you can write a book from start to finish and eliminate the most common pitfalls that we all hear about that plague writers. You may come up against some of these yourself: procrastination, the crippling fear and self-doubt, writer's block, and you can do it using a simple strategy that I'm going to teach you. And lastly, secret number 3. Secret number 3 is that regardless of your experience, your age, or what level you think you're at as a writer, the fastest way to establish yourself, grow your following, and make an impact in the world with your story is to complete your first book and position it to best sell with one basic method. This is the method I use. It's a method that Brandon and Tia and Gay have used, and I'm going to show you this method in today's training. But first, a bit of a warning. We've all been misled. You know, everyone believes, I hear it all the time, that writing a book, takes forever. It costs you your life, your personal time. You have to give up everything for your book. And on top of that, it can be really, really risky. I hear this almost every day that I talk to new people. We've been told that it's really hard to get published or make money from writing books. This is one of the fears people come up against all the time, is that it feels like a risky and impossible journey. We've also been told that only quote unquote real writers, whatever that means, can write their books, and it's almost impossible to become one of those people. So this is a general feeling that people come up against when they think about writing a book. We're also told that 90% of writing is your skill level and ability. It's like how good you are as a writer, right? That's 90% of it, is what we're led to believe. And that good writing takes forever or is difficult and painful for the writer. We've all heard that phrase, writing a book is like opening a vein onto the keyboard and just bleeding out the words. We've kind of heard some images around that, right? And we've heard that bad writing is inevitable, right? It's gonna suck at first. We've heard that it's normal to get stuck and face procrastination, writer's block. These are just the clues that you're doing it right. We've also heard so commonly that writing doesn't pay well, starving artist mentality. So these are some of the things that we come up against and what we're told about writing. So we want to really step away from some of this and look at what's actually true. So the truth is that anyone can write well and fast, regardless of their experience, skill level, or knowledge. That's what I believe, and that's what I've seen time and time again, right? For Brandon and Tia and Gay, that was their first book, and they came up against all the same fears, but they were able to move past it and achieve those amazing results that you just seen. 90% of writing is not skill at all. It's actually something else, something that I'm going to teach you in this training. Writing a book does not have to take forever or be super painful and difficult. And you don't need to get stuck, struggle, or deal with writer's block or procrastination. There's a way to eliminate it, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. Good writing, I've seen it happen, can be turned on like a light switch. And it can be fun and lucrative. So we really just want to understand that this is the truth. It also doesn't have to be super risky. And right now we want to recognize that there's more opportunity than ever before. There's exponential opportunity right now. Book sales have not gone down. Books are still selling. And people are buying books now more than ever because they actually need the help. They need the knowledge. They need the inspiration. Personal development is taking off. And this is what is happening. This is the truth of what's going on. It's actually an expanding market, not a shrinking market. So we need to recognize that. This is not a time to contract, right, with what the perception might be, but it's a time to expand yourself and your horizons. Because today, as I said, the world needs your story now more than ever before. You just need to avoid the one simple mistake that I'm going to show you, which has prevented so many people, the 99%, from getting their story out there. So let's talk about the number one mistake that I see people making when they set out to write a book. This is the thing that holds everyone back, that gets them stuck into procrastination, into writer's block, in self-doubt. This is the number one thing. It's a focus on craft, not strategy. Okay, so this is a big one because as creative people, we really take pride in our craft, and we are taught to develop our craft, right? We're valued on our craft. But sometimes what happens when that focus occurs is strategy takes a back seat. Craft becomes an obsession and strategy is neglected or treated as a nice to have. It's like an add-on, it's like a bolt-on, right? But strategy is actually essential. And this is what I saw with those experts long, long ago, is that strategy actually was number one. The way that they strategize their projects and their success came first. Let's look a little bit at what I mean by craft versus strategy. So we know what craft is, right? It's the, the skill level, the artistic skill that's required. So a carpenter's craft or the craft of writing plays. Strategy is very different, however. It's a careful plan or method. It's a stratagem, right? The art of devising plans or stratagems toward a goal. So there's an end goal with a strategy, right? And that's what we're lacking with the craft. Craft is about skill and quality. It's not necessarily about that end goal. Craft is skill. Strategy is the method that leads you toward the end goal. Two very, very different things, right? So why do you actually need a strategy? Well, strategy, if you think about it, is always the primer for a successful outcome in anything, right? Your strategy supports, stabilizes, and strengthens your craft, okay? So I use a really simple visual analogy to understand how this works. This is how strategy works. Strategy, I imagine, is like a tripod, right? It's like the three legs of a tripod. It's the foundation. And on top of that foundation is the craft, the artistic element or the craft, right? It sits on top of that three-legged tripod. It sits on top of the foundation. So without that foundation, right, you really don't have the thing that is supporting, strengthening, and stabilizing your craft. It weakens the craft when you don't have that solid foundation in place. I see this time and time again. It's what happened to me during those 3 years. I was focused only on the craft and I completely ignored strategy, right? I had no strategy for my book whatsoever. And as a result, I really became focused on the wrong thing, which is the craft. So many people come up against this. It's a really, really common mistake. That's why I call it the number one mistake, because I hear about it all the time. And it's the number one mistake that holds people back from getting their story told, is they come in with zero strategy and focus only on the craft. It's easy to focus only on the craft because there are a lot of common craft-focused mindsets that we all have approached or encountered at some point. Things like writing is really hard and it takes considerable time, or writing is like opening a vein and bleeding out the words, right? That painful description. Or questions like, what if I'm a terrible writer? You know, the self-doubt, or I'm worried the book won't be good enough or won't turn out as I imagine in my mind, or it might be bad. These are the craft-focused mindsets. Or even doubts like, what if I can't get it published? You know, so asking questions that are leading you to fear and anxiety over your book. Or thinking things like, what if I'm not qualified to write, you know, or I'm not very creative, I'm not a quote unquote real writer. These are some of the thoughts that creep in and really disrupt the process, right? A craft-focused mind is going to naturally, because of that way of thinking, encounter things like writer's block, procrastination, the starting and stopping. That's because of the thoughts that create the level of fear and anxiety. It's going to lead us to these things. It's very natural that it should happen. Worrying about, how the book is going to turn out will prevent you from actually sitting down to do the writing. So never starting or never finishing at all, giving up halfway through. I see that a lot. Feeling discouraged, doubting yourself, and never taking action at all because of fear. So having ideas, having notes, or having some plans that never actually get realized because of a simple thing, which is fear. A strategy-focused mind works very differently because remember, the strategy-focused mind has the end goal. The craft-focused mind does not have the end goal. Strategy-focused mind is clear on what the outcome or result of the book will be. So the goals give clarity, and clarity allows the individual to show up and be committed with kind of a no excuses mentality. The strategy-focused mind rather works very differently. It's in tune with purpose. So the strategy focus understands what is important and why it's important. It has a purpose. It's focused. So focus is an important quality of a strategy-focused mind, and also developing unshakable accountability. Because knowing the desired goals and outcomes is so important, the strategy-focused mind can operate consistently toward those goals, right? Not focusing on quality, focusing on the path to the desired goal or outcome. And that allows this individual with a strategy-focused mind to take action despite risk or fear, which is so important, to move forward in spite of the fear, in spite of the self-doubt. So I want to introduce you to a strategy for every single storyteller. This is a way that you will be able to tell your stories. It's how Brandon and Tia and Gay have gotten results. It's how I got my results. It's called the TAP method. Now, you might be wondering, what does TAP stand for? And I'm going to show you. TAP stands for those three things that I learned from the experts: time, accountability, and process. There's your TANP, the TAP method. So let's go in and talk about all these three things, how they work individually, and also how they work together to create success. Before I dive in, I think I want to look at the chat and see if there are any questions before I go deep into the TAP methodology. So I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to pop over. I don't see any questions. I'm going to pop into the chat. Ooh, it's pretty quiet. Okay. If anyone has a question, now's a good time to ask the question. Otherwise, I'm going to pop over and continue sharing and teaching. Okay. Anybody have a question they want to ask at this point? Okay, Rachel says, keep going. Okay, I see two in the Q&A. Danielle says, how did you publish your book? And AK Donald says, is your writing book available in paperback? Okay, so Danielle, how did I publish my book? So that's a longer question that I can answer at the end. But a lot of it has to do with what I'm about to teach you. So hang tight. AK Donald, my book is available as an ebook, which you can either get for free on my website or on Amazon. So probably get it for free on the website, but I will address Danielle's question at the end. Okay, she wants to write a book about her life. Awesome, Danielle. So I'm going to go through that a little bit more with you at the end because it's more detailed, but I think you'll get some good insight into what I'm about to show you in the rest of this training. Okay, so I went and answered that. Okay, thanks for your patience, everybody. I'm going back into the training. Here we go. So 3 things that the experts did. The TAP method was born from those 3 things: time, accountability, and process. What I discovered is that those experts were masters of time, accountability, and process. Now, it seems so simple when you say it out loud and you think about it, but it really involves some intricate thinking, some mindset work, and some strategies that I want to show you in this training of how you actually master time, accountability, process. What does it really mean to be a master of these 3 things, and how does it work? So let's talk about it. Remember secret number 1, that you can write a full-length quality book in 90 days without sacrificing your social life, spending all this time at the computer, taking away time from what you love most. Remember secret number 1. Well, the reason you can do all these things is through mastering time. That's how it's possible. So let's look at your relationship with time. There is the struggle and there is the success. 2 profiles of relationships with time that I want to talk about. So someone who's struggling with time, time is in control of them, versus on the other side, this person, the successful person, is in control of time. On the struggle side, the person struggling with time is unaware of what they can accomplish in 1 hour, 10 hours, versus understanding exactly what you can do with your time in 1 hour, 10 hours. So it's a really big difference here, right? The awareness of time. On the struggle side, this person does not understand the value of their hour. Whereas the successful side, they know exactly what an hour is worth and the value. The struggle side, this person is at the mercy of time, right? There's either too much time or there's not enough time, right? So they're kind of at war with time. Where on the successful side, they wield time like a tool or a weapon. Time is at their disposal. So very, very different relationships with time. On the one hand, you see the struggle. Time is always their enemy, whereas in the successful side, time is always their friend. So really, really different. Polar opposites here in terms of the relationship with time. I bet you can guess which category those experts fell into, where Tia and Brandon and Gay fall into. Yes, they're on the success column because their practices have been to master time through the TAP method. So to master time, you have to understand one simple thing, and that is that you're either in control of time or time is in control of you. That's it. First, start with this. It's the one thing you have to understand about time. Time is either going to be your enemy or it's going to be your friend, especially when you're writing a book because it's just you and the page. Here's the first step to mastering time that I want to teach you today. So you have to know your writing speed. I really don't care if you're writing a book, an article, or a screenplay. All the writers that I worked with were very aware of how fast they wrote. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Most writers, right? Most people, the ordinary person has no idea how fast they write. Writing speed is never a thing that they've talked about or even thought about, their average writing speed. So knowing your writing speed gives you an advantage. It gives you clarity on your skill. So where you're at, right? A benchmark to work from and improve upon. So you can start to put numbers to something and quantify it. Things get really real, really fast. It also gives you perspective on your writing project as a whole, especially with a book where we measure things in number of words, right? So mastering time begins with understanding what you as the writer can produce in a single unit of time, being really, really clear about that. We measure your writing speed in a very simple format, just like miles per hour with a car. With writing, we measure it in words per hour, how many words you can write in a single hour. So how do you actually discover your writing speed? Well, there is a technique that I use with my clients that involves free writing to learn how fast they write. So what we do is we set aside 60 or 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. We use a free writing process, which means you create your optimal writing environment, turn off the internet, get in a quiet spot away from distractions, and set that timer. Then you free write about a chosen book topic. Some people choose a specific chapter or scene, and they write freely without, stopping for the full 30 or 60 minutes. At the end of this 30 or 60 minute free write, they use their word processor to count how many words they have written. Really, really important to do this because now you've got your benchmark. This is your words per hour writing speed. If you wrote for 60 minutes, it's straightforward. That's your average words per hour writing speed. If you wrote for 30 minutes, double it and then multiply by 2, right? And you get your words per hour writing speed. So there's 2 ways to go about it. Some people are not comfortable writing for 60 minutes. So just write for 30 minutes and see what you turn up. The key to the free write method with discovering your writing speed is to repeat the process. Don't just do it once, do it 3 times, do it 4 times, and see whether, depending on what you're writing about or your environment, how your writing speed changes. Start to become aware of what you can produce in a single unit of time. This is really the key to start developing your awareness and your mastery of time. Now you know your power over time and what you can do, how you can utilize time to your benefit, right? And this is a very empowering step. I see every writer, as soon as they do this exercise for the first time, they report their words back to me. And the result is something like, wow, I can write 1,000 words in an hour. That's actually a lot. Or, I wrote 2,000 words in an hour. I even had one client write 2,500 words in her hour, which is amazing, right? And suddenly you feel a sense of empowerment over what you can do for your writing project. So whether you're writing an article, screenplay, whatever you're writing, this is a really good method to use because you can start to get clarity, perspective, and a benchmark to work from. So time affects your writing in a number of ways. I want to show you how time affects your writing. Firstly, with speed, right? So you know how fast you write, and it's going to help you calculate the speed, how quickly you can reach your deadline, right? Or maybe what a good realistic deadline is. This is how time is going to help you. The second thing it's going to give you is predictability, which so many new writers lack. And this is, understanding how, whether you actually have a realistic deadline and you can get there, right? So being able to accurately predict what that deadline looks like, again, gives you more control over your time. And then the last thing is efficiency. Mastering time is going to help you become a more efficient writer. So understanding the quality and quantity of writing from one session to the next, knowing what you can produce or what you should produce when you sit down to write. So having a benchmark and knowing that I have 30 minutes to write, I should be able to turn out about 500 to 700 words, let's say. And that's a really good place to be in as a writer setting out on your journey. So that is mastering time. When you master time, you can write a full-length quality book in 90 days without sacrificing your social life, spending all day at the computer, or taking time away from what you love most. It's a first step toward becoming a master of time, right? And this is what allows you to accomplish your goal and really understand how to move toward it methodically instead of haphazardly, right? So let's go into secret number 2. Remember, secret number 2 is that you can write a book from start to finish and eliminate the most common pitfalls that plague writers, like procrastination, the fear, the self-doubt, the writer's block, and you can do it using a simple strategy, which we know is the TAP method. So let's talk about the A in TAP, which stands for accountability, mastering accountability. How do we become masters of accountability? So let's cover those two profiles, the relationship with accountability that I have discovered. There's the struggle and there's the success. In the struggle column, the person struggling with accountability finds reasons not to write, whereas on the other hand, the person that has a good relationship with accountability finds reasons to not stop writing. So very different, right? Feeling discouraged or uninspired easily versus being consistently passionate and inspired about your project. How does that happen? We want to know. Then on the other hand, the person struggling describes writing as painful. You hear that a lot. Versus in the success column, the person that has a good, successful relationship with accountability describes writing as being easy or fun. I hear this all the time, and I love hearing when writers feel like their project is easy or fun. The struggle, they have trouble showing up consistently, okay, so they start to become really inconsistent with their writing habit. Or on the other hand, the person with a successful relationship shows up consistently even when the writing is difficult or tough, right? And then the core thing about accountability is that the person struggling with it has trouble staying accountable to just themselves. They're writing the project for them and they have trouble showing up for themselves with their book. Whereas on the other hand, this individual is accountable to something greater. They have a larger purpose or a mission, and that helps them show up more consistently. So to master accountability, you really just have to understand one simple thing. And accountability means showing up for something greater than yourself, serving a larger mission, fulfilling a need, or honoring a greater purpose. This is the main thing about accountability that I want you to take away. So many of us write for ourselves. We write because we have our own goals and aspirations, and we want to make an impact and do great things. And we set out writing, and we find that over time, writing for yourself is not enough. You actually have to write for a greater purpose, something larger than you, and be really clear about what that is. So let's talk about, how do you get clear on that greater purpose with your writing project? So this is the first step to getting clear and mastering accountability. You have to know your why. You have to really be clear on your reason for writing the project. Most writers begin writing without developing the clarity around, number one, who they're serving with their work, who it stands to benefit from their book or their project, and also why it's important to them. They don't have a clear vision for either of these things. And as a result, without clarity, they lack focus, they lack energy, and they're, very, they have a very difficult relationship with accountability over time, because they struggle, right? They struggle to stay accountable to something that is just for them without having purpose. We all need purpose. So understanding your why helps you tap into your motivation and feel consistently motivated. It also helps increase necessity, right? Which is the reason that the book or the project needs to be completed. You feel increased necessity, and it's also going to help you establish purpose. We talked about purpose. Purpose is so important when you set out to do anything in life, right? But especially when you set out to write a book. So mastering accountability begins with understanding a purpose that is greater than you. So how do we do that? I teach something called purpose-driven writing, which means really getting clear on your purpose and your why, and then creating something called a purpose statement. So what is a purpose statement? A purpose statement is a written expression and a promise to yourself of your why and your reason for writing your book, the people you're trying to help, and the impact you hope it has in the world. So I'll give you a really good example of a purpose statement. When I set out to write Blood, Ink, and Fire, there was a really clear reason, a really clear purpose I had for writing this book. Not only was it for me, right, in the story that I told you, not only was it for me to change my life and my circumstances and reach my goals and aspirations, I actually wanted to send a message. I wanted to write about what was happening in the world, what I saw happening with the digitization of books. So books becoming non-physical things that lived in a cloud or on a Kindle, and getting away from books as physical objects. So I personally grew up with, books, physical books. I love books as, real tangible things. And it broke my heart to kind of see this transition away from reading the physical book. So I wanted to write something that would make people think about what would happen if the world no longer had those books. It was really important to me. And I really believed in that message, and I wanted to serve a community of book lovers, people who would not buy an ebook and wanted to buy physical books, right? And believed in the power of physical books. So that's why I wrote that book. I really wanted to send that message and make that impact with Blood, Ink, and Fire. So your purpose statement, that's what you can create for your project. It will help you lock in your accountability by bringing every aspect of your writing together. So the who, the what, the why, and the how. So think about who you're writing for. What is important to you in sending a message or having an impact with the story that you're telling? Why is that important to you? Where does that motivation or inspiration come from? And then how are you going to tell it, right? What does the format look like? Is it a novel? Is it a self-help book? Is it something else, right? Think about what you're writing and why it's important. So having a purpose statement is going to help you solidify the concept of showing up for something that's greater than yourself, the larger purpose, serving the larger mission, fulfilling a need that you see exists, and honoring that greater purpose. So for me, it was to reach the community of book lovers and send a message that books as physical things are really important, and we as humans can't afford to lose them. So that's an example of purpose-driven writing and how it really helps you to show up time and time again. So Danielle asked a question about how my book was published. One of the key things that helped me publish my book was I tapped into the community of online book lovers through Instagram, and I began sharing what I was writing about with them and seeing their reactions and developing a community, building a fan base for the book before it even had a publishing deal. I just posted consistently about my book and what I was writing. People responded really well because I wasn't serving myself. I was actually serving a larger important mission, which was to keep physical books alive. So one of the hashtags was keep books alive. And people really responded to that because they felt the same way as I did. We shared the same values. So I was able to reach my ideal readers before the book was formally published through one simple thing, and that was being clear on my purpose and sharing my purpose over social media. Back then, Instagram was pretty new and there weren't a lot of authors sharing, so it was pretty easy to put some hashtags and photos out there and get a really good response. I don't know how that would be today. It's a completely different animal than it was then, but I would challenge you to see how you can use your voice on those platforms to share your purpose and really create momentum around whatever it is that you want to write. Okay. So let's talk about mastering accountability. This is member secret number 2. When you master the A in the TAP method, you can write a book from start to finish and eliminate those common pitfalls: procrastination, fear, self-doubt, and writer's block. So I have seen client after client go through this process and never encounter procrastination, right? Be able to overcome the fear because of their accountability to their purpose. And writer's block just isn't a thing. It's completely eliminated when you understand who you're writing for, why you're serving them, and you're getting energy from that audience, right? Like I was when I was writing my book. So I really want to encourage you to find your purpose and put it into words so that you can benefit from this as well. One of the key things I like to do is print out my purpose statement and put it on my writing desk. It might sound a little cheesy, but when you see it every day, when you sit down to write, it does make a difference. Okay, let's go into secret number 3. Secret number 3, regardless of your experience, your age, or what level you think you're at as a writer, the fastest way to establish yourself, grow your following, and make an impact in the world with your story is to complete your first book and position it to best sell with one basic method. And that method is the TAP method. So let's dive into the P in TAP that stands for mastering process. So the relationship with process, the twofold, the struggle and the success. The struggling writer knows the process in theory, whereas on the success side, they know the process in practice. So they're actually using it, which is a big deal. A lot of people know about it, but they don't use it because they think the process is optional. And on the other side, the successful writer accepts the process is a must-have, right? There's no avoiding it. You do the process, you follow the process. On the struggling side, though, I hear this a lot. People who are struggling with the process or writing in general become suspicious of it, and they think it might not work for them, right? So that's one of the first things that I encounter is helping people to understand that you need to trust the process implicitly. You need to follow it. It's there and it exists for a reason. So on the struggling side, these individuals, they believe there's no one size fits all process to writing a book. Okay, so it's kind of unique to them, where they can pick and choose how they want to do it. Whereas on the success side, they know that writing a book follows a predictable, universal, step-by-step process. So on the struggle side, they don't understand what mindset has to do with the process and how it helps you optimize the writing process. So mindset is actually a big player in this. On the success side, they understand that mindset is the key to optimal results at each phase of the writing process. So if you ask someone, how did you end up, if you ask those experts, how did you end up getting your book out there? It's because they followed the process and they knew exactly what they were doing at every stage and how to think about what they were doing. So that's the key to mastering process. You have to understand that process is not just about what you do and when you do it, but it's also about mindset, or the way you think about what you're doing while you're doing it. So going into the writing process at every phase with a really clear mindset. So I'm going to tell you we're going to go through the 5 phases, and then I'm going to show you what the optimal mindset is to have at every phase and how to think about it. So the first step is to know how to think about writing, the optimal mindset to have at each phase of the writing process. So what does the writing process look like? Here are the 5 phases. The first is pre-writing. Okay, this is where you get your plans in order, or if you're in my program, you do a 3-step simple planning process that we work on together. And this is really getting clear. This is where the accountability piece comes into play, and you are understanding what your purpose is and the greater purpose that you have for your story. The second step is drafting, or also known as composing. It's where you actually sit down and write the first draft from start to finish. The third step is revision. It's where you go in and make the adjustments you need to make. And then number 4, editors come in. These are external people. Usually it's recommended you don't edit your book yourself, but you bring in a different pair of eyeballs to edit your book. And then number 5 is the publishing process. This is where the book becomes a physical thing in the world. Okay, so let's look at what are the main or the optimal mindsets that you need to have at each and every phase of the writing process. So in pre-writing, what are you doing? What's the number 1 job that you should have when you're pre-writing? The number 1 job is you should be formulating, validating, and actualizing your book idea. So that is through the planning, the research, and really getting clear on your purpose. So the pre-writing is all about setting you up and your foundation for success. If you're in my program, it's building out the TANP part of the TAP method methodology. So being really clear on your mastery of TANP before you even sit down to write a single word. Then you move into the drafting. Only after your foundation is in place and you feel confident and ready to go, then you start drafting. Your number 1 job when you're drafting is to tell the story from start to finish. And this is what trips most people up, is they do not tell the story from start to finish. They hop over into stage number 4, which is editing. And we don't want to do that. We want to stay with our author hat on, our writer hat on, and tell the story from start to finish. In the revision stage, after you've completed the first draft, the revision stage, you have one simple job, and that is to improve the experience of the book for your readers. A lot of people get very confused about what they should be doing in the revision stage. I see a lot of people rewriting things that don't need to be rewritten, and a lot of editing that happens where people try to make the book perfect. But perfection doesn't happen here. Perfection happens on the path to publishing, and that's where you bring in editors and other eyeballs to come in and look at your manuscript and help perfect the experience of the book for your readers. That's where you make it error-free. That's where you make sure that everything is consistent and everything is perfect, is in stage 4. The publishing path, right, stage 5, that's where you work on creating an optimal path for the book to reach your readers and get into their hands. So that's where if you're self-publishing, you are creating your own path. If you're working with a traditional publisher, they're going to be managing that process with you all the way from revision and editing into getting the book to market through whatever channels and distribution they want to use. So there are really clear 5 different phases, but what tends to happen, people don't follow the process and they conflate and confuse the phases. So they start editing and doing publishing tasks when they really should only be focused on phase 2, which is telling the story from start to finish. And the 99% of writers that don't get their book out there, guess where they get tripped up most? It's in phase 2, the drafting phase. That's where they hit the wall. that's where they give up. And that's why it's so important to come into the drafting phase with your plans ready to go and complete so that you can do it confidently and not encounter all those pitfalls. So these are the 5 phases and how you should think about them as you go into all 5 phases of writing your book. So how do you hack your writer brain from day one? I've covered some of it, but what you need to do is understand your number one job as a writer at every phase of the writing process. So you need to focus on only that job and nothing else. Never conflate or confuse the phases. Stick to the order, 1 through 5. Pay attention to your thinking. Are you using the editor's brain, the perfectionist brain, or the writer's brain? And trust the process because it exists for a reason. So really starting to be aware of what's going on as you set out to write your book. So mastering process means that regardless of your experience or age or what level you think you're at as a writer, you can make an impact in the world with your story, complete your first book, and position it to bestsell. One of the first ways that you do that is by following and trusting the process and getting through what 99% of people don't get through, which is the second phase. As soon as you move into the other phases, you're on your way and you're doing what 99% of people ultimately don't get around to doing, which is finishing their book. So the 3 things must work together: time, accountability, and process. Where you really see people make progress is when they master all 3 things together. They don't just focus on time. They don't just get clear on their purpose, but they actually do all 3 things at once. And that's where you really see progress and transformation happen. The 3 secrets are powerful, right? The TAP method is powerful. And now that you know how the TAP method works, you can also use these tactics to experience amazing results and move your projects ahead. You'll be able to transform, when you use it, from timid writer to expert storyteller. These are the secrets. What I find is that most people have all the craft that they need, though they might not see it. They just need the strategy to support, strengthen, and stabilize their craft. So when used correctly, these 3 secrets combined with your own natural talents and abilities will really help you not only tell your story, but they can truly change your life. You've seen how the 3 people in this program, Tia and Brandon and Gay, have had amazing progress, and it really should open your eyes to what's possible when you know how to go about the thing, right? So a few things to remember, then we're going to wrap up and I'm going to answer your questions. There has never been a better time to write your book and get it out in the world. The world needs your stories and your voices now more than ever, and storytelling is the deepest human connection we can make and can, help us create impact like pretty much nothing else, right? The power of story. And truly, the world needs your voice at this time, right? The opportunity is exponential to help, to influence, and to make the world a better place, right? Remember that nothing done well is by accident. Success is always preceded by a strategy. Sometimes there's the illusion of instant success, but guess what? Behind it is a very methodical, clear strategy. And everyone has a story inside them to tell. You just need to know how to get it out there. Strategy is the key. I've seen it work, and I really hope that you will take these principles into your own writing. Because now you have a choice, right? I've shown you some interesting things, hopefully in this training. You can go back to the old way of thinking about writing. You can go back to sitting in the craft mindset and worrying about your skill or artistic ability. Or you can use what you've learned to finally write your book and use the strategies, use those practices and tools to really transform yourself and your thinking and finish your book. Remember, there really are no limits. When I see people like Tia completing their book in under 7 weeks, or Gay on track to finish her book in 8 weeks, there's no limits to what you can do. The only limitation that I want to propose to you is your own thinking. So let's move away from craft and into strategy to help you bolster your natural ability and really flourish as writers, because I believe everybody is capable of amazing things. So I have something special that I want to offer. I'm going to pop it in the chat before I take questions. If you want to go deeper into the TAP method and look at how you can apply it, how some of these things can possibly help you with your projects, your books, then here's what I'd like to offer you. I want to offer you a free one-to-one call with me. Here's how I can help you. On the call, exclusively for people in this training, we're going to go deep into the story you want to tell. You're going to tell me about your story, and we're going to talk about why it's important to you. We'll talk about your purpose. We're then going to strategize what might be holding you back from getting it out there and see how we can help you. On the same call, I'm going to help you identify exactly what you need to do in the next 90 days to hit your goals, write your book, and get it published. So we'll talk about what that looks like. I can answer your particular questions. We can strategize together. This is a really great opportunity because we can also talk about what other lucrative opportunities might exist for your book beyond publishing, right? So I know about adaptation work. I can talk to you about that. I can talk to you about other opportunities like using it for your business or speaking or creating book circles and how that works as the author once you get your book out there. So I'll strategize with you. I'll show you some interesting things you might not be aware of how to leverage your book. And lastly, I want to let you know and remind you this call is absolutely free. It's my gift to you for being on this training, sticking with me for all this time. I appreciate you. I want to honor your attendance and give you something of extra value. So what I can do is, open up a few times in my schedule for you, and we can sit together one-on-one and really go through it. So who is this for? It's for really specific people, okay? My specialty is books. So you really need to have a book idea and be ready to start and finish writing it in 90 days. If that's not you, if you're not really interested in a book, the call is not for you. It's for people who really want to write a book, are hungry to get their story out there, and just need a little guidance to make it happen. So you must want to also publish your book widely, either through traditional or self-publishing. I know about both, so I will help you with that. And you must be willing also to dive into a conversation about how to make money and generate evergreen professional opportunities from your book. This is something that I've done with my books, so I want to show you how to do the same thing. So if that's not really what you're into, then this call is not for you. It's for people who are looking to generate opportunities for their book in the world. You also need to be committed and fully show up for the call. I show up for all my calls. I prepare fully, and I want you to do the same. Be committed to what the call is for, and be committed to your book ultimately. So that's who the call is for. It's my gift to you. I'm doing this for a few reasons. You know what I'm about. It's my mission to help people tell their stories and change the world for the better through new voices and new stories. That's what I'm all about. And I truly believe everyone has a story that can help improve the world. So if I can be the person to help you unlock that, that gives me so much excitement and joy. It's one of the things that I love most about teaching and coaching, is that I'm helping people to tell stories that have been locked inside them for years, sometimes more, like decades. So it's really wonderful for me to see that transformation when they reach the milestone of their book finally being done and on to publishing. That makes me so happy. So that is my mission. And if I can help you do the same thing, I would love it. I'm also, remember, looking for my next success story. I'm looking for my next Tia, my next Brandon, my next Gay. Maybe you could be that person. So if we both feel like it might be a great fit to work together to get your story out there, we can explore that too and see if it's right for both of us. If it's not, no pressure. It's totally okay, but we will have the conversation so that you know what's available for you. And if it's right, we'll move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and post the link in the chat so you can schedule your call. Then I'm going to hop off and I'm going to answer your questions. I want to thank everybody, all of you, for sticking around on this training. It's been such a pleasure. And I really hope I get to talk to you, some of you one-to-one, and connect with you personally. It's one of the things I love most about doing what I do. So let me go ahead, stop the share. I'm going to put the link in the chat so that you can book your call with me. Again, it's completely free. It's just a chance for us to connect, and it will be an hour long, which, you know, I set aside this time for us to really go deep into your project. And I want to hear from you why it's important, what you want, what your goals are, and I can see if, you know, I can help make that happen. If I've got some knowledge or expertise I can share with you, I will do it, and I will give you massive value in the call. So it's my gift to you. Let me stop and give you that link so that you can grab the spots. So hang on a second. Let me grab the link for you. Awesome. So bear with me. Okay. Here we go. There's the link. I have time that I've set aside tomorrow, and I think on Saturday. There are not many slots open just because my calendar is pretty full at the moment. So if you want to book, I suggest you click over there pretty quick and grab a time slot because they tend to go pretty quickly and fast. So let's see. Vivian's asking, don't see the link. Okay, hopefully I'll pop it in again. It's a Calendly link, so let's see if everyone's able to grab that this time. Yeah, and also feel free to reach out to the Help Network at help@helpnet.com for more talks that are coming up, more interviews and awesome events like these that you can participate in. Again, I just want to thank Julia for having me, for Julian for setting all this up and being so awesome in you know, getting me set up for this training, and Chip as well, all the people of the Help Network, so awesome. Okay, so people, I think, let's see. Hey, Julia, thank you. People are saying they don't see it. I think it's just come up. It might be delayed. In the meantime, I want to take some questions. Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. So I'm hopping over into the Q&A. If you haven't put your question in the Q&A, please add it in so that I can address it. Okay, so Danielle, you asked, how did I publish your book? Okay, so I've done traditional and self-publishing, one of each for each of my books. On the traditional path, like I told you, it really helped me to have the community and the, you know, the social following. As I was writing my book, I grew the social following, which is a really compelling case for a publisher to look at and see that this book already has traction, it already has an audience, and it's not even out there yet. So that's something I would encourage you to do, is use your following, activate your following, and that's a great way to you know, approach a publisher with a stronger hand. Okay, so Danielle wants to write a book about her life. Awesome. So that would be a memoir. Yeah, definitely. And if you can help readers by sharing your story, now is the time. If you have any other specific questions, Danielle, I'm happy to answer. Okay, so Travis says, I think what's been overwhelming me is when I ask for advice and get responses. How do I know when I've reached the end result? Okay, Travis, so asking for advice and getting no responses. So yeah, let's have a conversation. I'm scheduled to talk again, so I'm going to talk to you about that, see what you mean, see if I can help you a little bit more. And you know, how do I know when I've reached the end result? Yeah, so I don't know if you're specifically asking about your manuscript. How do you know if your manuscript is ready to go? Or how do you know that it's ready to pitch to a publisher? Yeah, so tell me some more information. Hopefully I can answer that question. Okay, so somebody asked, do you have tips on how to plot the story/book? I absolutely do. So I do have a free resource I'd like to direct you to, which is on my website. I'll pop my website into the chat. You can download my book, The Writer Success Code, which gives you my 3-step planning tool. And this is the same tool that all my clients use. Brandon used it, Tia used it, Gay used it, and it's what helped them get their books done. So yeah, there are really clear ways that you can use in that book. Hopefully it'll explain to you how to break the book down into manageable sections that I call quadrants, and what it looks like to plan your book using this methodology. Okay, so let me pop that in the chat. The website is writingcoachla.com. And if you head over there, you can get a free copy of the book, which is a really great way to start. And it's a 7-day guide. In 7 days, you will have your book planned if you follow every step. Awesome. Rachel Cross says, do you have any templates for the pre-writing stage? Yes, I absolutely do. Same resource. Hop over, download my free book, and you'll be able to use all the templates in that workbook. It has a complete guide to help you in the pre-writing stage, to get all your thoughts on paper, develop your purpose statement, get clear on your ideal reader, loads of exercises and questions. If you want to go deeper, there's a guide after that you can get. You'll be prompted to a toolkit, which has even more stuff that you can follow in my workbook. So there's a complimentary workbook you can also use with that. So definitely start with the free book. Okay, AK Donald, do you write an outline in phase 1? Absolutely. That's part of the 3-step planning process. We work up to an outline. So my clients begin with the story arc. They plan their story arc, which I like to call the skeleton of the book, the structure that holds everything together. And from there, we actually use a film technique. We use a beat sheet. So we do a beat sheet, a chronological beat sheet after the story arc to fully flesh everything out. Get the chronology in place. It's much easier to move around bullet points that are beats than it is entire chapters in your manuscript. So I've found that the beat sheet is a really useful tool, not just for screenwriters and for film, but also for books. So we use that. After you're done with the beat sheet, then create your pro outline. And again, you can get the outline template that I use and that all my clients have used. If you download my free book, it's in there and it explains how to actually use it and what the advanced fields are. So hopefully that helps a little bit. AK Donald, thank you so much for your awesome question. Vivian asked, do I work with self-help authors? Yes, all the time. So self-help / self-development is a category that's really taking off. And I would categorize both Tia's book and Gay's book as falling into different aspects of the self-help genre as an umbrella. So yes, I absolutely do work in that space a lot. Thanks, Vivian, for your question. Okay, so Lori asked me a great question. Lori, I have your question. Thank you so much for submitting it ahead of time. It's about ghostwriting. So Lori, I'm not a ghostwriter. The reason I'm not is because I get such a thrill from empowering other people and training other people and coaching other people to transition and become authors. So I really believe fundamentally that everybody can and should write their own books. So I'm not a ghostwriter. I know a ghostwriter. I've worked with them before, but it's not something that I do personally. And I would probably challenge you to think, about why you want a ghostwriter and whether or not that's something that you really need. Maybe think about if you actually can write your own book and tell your own story. So maybe download my free book and see if you can use it to get a start on writing your book. You asked, what info does a ghostwriter need to write a book for someone? So it's hard for me to speak to because I'm not one, but when I've seen it happen successfully, the ghostwriter can typically work a number of ways, but one of the best ways they work with writers is through interview, and they do extensive interviews to capture the information that they want to put in the book. It also helps them to hear the person's voice, how they speak, how they articulate their story, and that's what helps them, capture the facts and information, but also the tone and create something that sounds like the person. So interview is something that I've seen used successfully and widely before. I hope that helps, Lori. Let me know if you have other questions. Danielle says, I'm looking forward to working with you and getting my book published. That's awesome, Danielle. I would love that. Book your call and we can talk about what your book is and your publishing goals. I'm excited to hear what you are working on. Okay, Steve, how can we best prepare for the call? Okay, Steve, that's a great question. So I want you to think about your book and your idea. Why? Think about your why, because I want you to tell me your why on the call. And I'd also really like to know what your publishing goals are, for the book. Do you want or envision a traditional publisher? Do you want to, best sell? What are your intentions for the book? How do you see it existing in the world, right? What would you ultimately like to achieve from your book? If you're really clear on these questions, it will help me during the call because I'm going to ask you this information, and it will help me dial in and see what is the right path or strategy for you. I hope that helps, Steve. I look forward to talking to you. That's awesome. Okay. So Danielle says, it's a book to help other women learn from what I've been through and help them to get justice. Wow. Powerful stuff, Danielle. So, yeah, I think definitely book your call. You have another question. How long have you been doing this? Yeah, so I've been doing this a while. I've been working with writers, ever since my 9-to-5 job where I was learning from the experts. That was way back in 2011, so a long time. And it just feels like something that I've been doing my whole life, so I really enjoy it. I love doing this. I love empowering other people to become authors as much, if not more, than I love doing the work myself. So hopefully that tells you a little bit more about me and answers your questions. Awesome. Travis says, okay, he's got some clarification. Thanks, Travis. I'm referring to when you know your manuscript is ready to start working on. Okay, so if you're following the TAP method, then you know you're ready to start writing when you have ultimate clarity and you've learned the fundamentals of mastering T, A, and P. So your foundation is in place. And you know you're ready to start writing because 1, you're going to have the energy. 2, you're going to have the clarity on every single chapter, every single scene that you're writing. That's what the process will give you. So at that point, you know you're ready to start writing because there's pretty much nothing left to do. You've done your market research, you know where you sit in the competition, you know what other books are out there, you know all about your ideal reader, you know your purpose statement, you're clear on your why, and you're understanding how to use the writing process. You're in the right frame of mind to begin writing your first draft, which is so important. And then you've got your 3-step plans that have been developed over a period of time. So your outline is a super, super clear resource for you to sit down and just go, okay, I know exactly what I'm writing on day 1. And because I've gone through all the development stages in the pre-writing with the TAP method, I know how many words I'm writing, what chapter I'm writing, who it's for, and my end goals and results that I want to achieve. So that's really the thing, is clarity, and you have the energy to sit down and write. All these things add up to making you feel really, really confident. When you feel confident to sit down to write, the outcome is just going to be so much better, right? So I always really coach my authors to write from a place of confidence about their books. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. Crystal, is it problematic if there's no clear genre for your book? In short, Crystal, I think it is problematic because genre is something that we're used to when we search for books. Publishers have genre expectations, readers have genre expectations. And it's one of the first things we get really clear on is, genre is not just an artistic term to help group your book, but it's also a marketing tool, because if you understand where you sit in the market, then you can understand how you can compete in that market with your content. So getting clear on your genre is actually a really, really important step. And there's questions in the free book that I am giving you guys. So if you go to my website, download the free book, there will be a clear exercise on how to get clear on your genre. If you book a call, I can also talk through that with you and give you even more clarity on where your book belongs in the marketplace. So AK Donald asks, if the book requires extensive research, do you do all of that in phase 1? Well, that's a great question. With the TAP method, you do some of it in phase 1, and you also have a really clear way of incorporating it into the writing process. So there are ways to deal with research. We cover this actually because research is another thing that can really trip people up. They get lost in the researching phase and they never put anything down on paper. So research is really, you need to know what's most important for your book and the research or evidence you need for your book. So tell me what your topic is again. I can't remember if you said it. Oh, let me add the link to the site for you. Okay. Let me grab that. In the meantime, if you tell me your topic for your book, it will help me understand what level of research that you might need to complete your book, or at least to get started and finish that first draft, which is our ultimate goal. Okay, I'm popping a link here to my website. Okay, brilliant. So these are such great questions. What an amazing group of people. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, teaching you. I love this more than anything. Okay, Danielle says, is there any way we can get a recording of this webinar? Yes, you absolutely can, Danielle. The Help Network is going to have that. Someone is saying, Julia, we have to end. Okay, we have to end the webinar. Sure. So I've got the resource there. I will make sure that you have all of that. writingcoachla.com. The link is there. We have to end. Okay, it's been so much fun, you guys, but I think that's it, and we have to sign off. So thank you, everybody. Sorry I didn't see that before. I couldn't see ending the webinar, but thank you so much, everybody, for attending. I hope it was helpful. Please reach out, get on the phone with me, and I look forward to seeing all of you. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.